Okay, so to begin, I found this amazing 3D polar bear head model made by Megan Gretzfield on ArtStation. Other than the artwork you can see by CCJ Ellis, I used it as my only reference for this build, so I'll put a link to her work down below. So to begin, I zoomed into the model ref on my laptop and traced the outline onto a piece of paper with a Sharpie. I started with the top of the muzzle, so I cut it out and traced the shape onto a piece of foam twice. This gave me the sides of the muzzle. To make the nose bridge connecting them, I placed the two pieces upside down in the position I wanted them to stand and drew around their shape onto the foam. I then cut it out slightly bigger than the lines to accommodate the curve, heat formed it into the curve, checking the reference and gluing the pieces together. When the glues become tacky, usually within about 30 seconds, I stick the pieces together, check the reference to make sure it looks alright, and heat form to adjust the shape. Then I do the same techniques for the end of the nose. So I draw around it, cut, heat form, bend, measure, stick, and heat form again. I trim the edges down and then compare it to my reference just to make sure it looks good. It's important to keep checking against the reference as you build this. So I pretty much use the same technique for the rest of the build. It's mostly just cutting small shapes and slowly building the form up. If you want to give this a go yourself, I highly recommend working symmetrically, so when you put something on one side you do it on the other as well, just to make sure it all fits together nicely. I'm really not worried about making it too neat because I'm going to be covering it in craft foam afterwards. Here I couldn't use my paper template for the shape, so instead I stuck pieces of masking tape to the foam and drew over the hole that I wanted to fill instead. I then transferred that pattern onto foam and cut it out. This particular shape needed to bend inwards, so I had to retrace it and add a little extra to the size to accommodate the curve. With each piece I make, I trace and cut out a mirrored one for the other side. I realised the bottom of the throat wasn't centred, so I ripped it off, reformed the jaw with the heat gun, and trimmed the size down a little bit. I drew a line down the centre so I could align it more accurately, and then stuck it back on. It even has a better curve now. This is very much a build that I winged, so mistakes like this happen all the time. It's a big old learning process. I heat form as I go, bending the foam into curvier shapes. The cheeks are a big confusing mess of patchwork foam. I build up the other side with the mirrored pieces and then go onto the head. I put the reference in bird's eye view and drew the rough shape onto a piece of foam. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect since I'll be heat forming it and then covering it with foam clay. Now all that's left is to fill in the gaps. You often see me putting my finger against the foam. That's kind of the same technique that painters use with their thumbs. I use my finger to measure the distance and then use that as a reference to draw the shape. That's pretty much the shape of the head. Now I just have to heat form it one last time and trim the edges. I also draw on where I want the eye for the reference later and add a strip of foam inside the mouth for a base for the foam clay to stick to. And he's done! I quickly put together a pauldron to mount him on, and I'll be releasing another video about how I make these pauldrons soon. He's a pretty messy bear, but he works as a good base for the foam clay.